business and loans and grants. On the community facilities, when you go into a small town, many times that's our money, your money, taxpayer money, that has either given mostly loans, low interest loans for these community facilities, firehouses, community pavilions, and centers for elderly. We do a lot of neat things, and that piece, a lot of times we have guarantees, and then for community facilities we have direct loans, of course. And so, long-winded answer is, don't think that, I'm certain that's not in there today, that piece that you're talking about. But with the President's agenda on an all-in energy policy and recent discussions coming out regarding climate change, there is a lot of discussion about what the federal government can do to push this agenda. So there's no rate that I know of that is purporting that, but certainly there are many discussions going on in this town regarding what we can do as the federal government having to lead on this issue, what mechanisms that we have without, Congress can do what they can do, what we can do at the executive branch and the agency level to help push this agenda. So those kind of discussions are going on, but I'm not aware of anything at this point. And what is your social media folks, what are y'all suggesting? Just language that would say, in order to receive federal funds, that one would have to comply with bio-based manufacturing type of regs?
I think the support towards bio-based manufacturing, we have a lot of things that mandate, look at reference, and encourage
And I'm certain we've got priority points that look at these kind of things, and a lot of what we do for priority points for us is about poverty and ladders of opportunity, where that's where we try to put our funds and leveraging, but it's certainly something I'll take back with me.
Other questions? Yeah.
Tara, as a small company, we've done some things to look into exporting, specifically China. Probably have 30% of the work to get those products into their country. Would it be wise for us to talk with you so we could be stronger, more powerful? You know what I'm trying to say? We're a small company, but with working with your agency or yourself and your, we would say we work with. Does this give us more clouds with government, etc.?
Well, I'm not sure we can bring more clout with the Chinese government, but I would actually really like to grab your card at the end of this and make sure that we put you in touch with, I'm excited to be able to say this, Lily and staff in whatever part of the country you're in, because they're now in a great position. They're likely to be relatively close to where you are, and they're in a great position to be the first point of contact with a whole network of folks that support exports. So that could be the Small Business Administration or the Export-Import Bank with export financing or export insurance, or it could be the U.S. Commercial Service through the Department of Commerce, or their partners at the state level, or their partners at the regional or local level. So there's a whole there's a deep bench of people that we have behind each of our small businesses that I'm learning more about all the time. And I think one opportunity we have here is just making sure that people know the support that is available in each region of the country. So I'll be sure to grab your card.
Would not be a poster child.
What do you think? What do you think?
Soy products for trucking, and also for railroads, and just general products, housing, graffiti movers, a lot of good stuff.
We have a poster child from the Pennsylvania region that's making fish food for export, looking at aquaculture all over the world. So I'll look forward to hearing more.
The other thing is that those USDA centers, which is part of Commerce, it's sort of, three agencies that work together. They're normally based in cities, and that's part of what we've done, and Tara's done a great job, and the Secretary, of trying to make sure that those resources are given to the rural areas. But one of the things that's pretty nifty are these gold key opportunities that the Department of Commerce allow you to go on, where they'll put you in front of various distributors. And there's also what they call trade win events that you might, we'll make sure you get all of the full spectrum. But there is a lot of emphasis on it. And if you say you're from a rural town, everyone in the federal family knows about the Made in Rural Initiative. So that may help.
We're from Brooklyn.
Oh, are you from Brooklyn?
Iowa.
Even better.
My heart's
so
off.
go away, there's no Iowa. Okay, come on. Brooklyn, Iowa.
If I could just step back a little bit from the
Daniel, do you want to start that one?
It never, it comes out on a date. So it never comes out on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, the Biobased Research and Development Initiative and the AFRI Sustainable Bioenergy Caps talk about, we require all of our grant award winners to look at some type of life cycle analysis. And actually with the Bernie program, we've been pushing the GBET evaluation of sustainability. That's internationally agreed upon. And we're taking it even a step further. And all these data sets that are coming in, these huge data sets that look at all aspects of inputs, outputs, and outcomes. We're working with the National Agricultural Library to set up an open source LCA that Under Secretary Wojcicki has been pushing for quite some time. We've got a lot of progress going on right now, so much so that they stole my program sessions away from me.
I guess I would just add, Kathleen, that one of our challenges in the R&D mission area, we talk a lot about poverty, we talk a lot about job creation, and we talk a lot about lack of access in rural areas. So when I wake up in the morning, it doesn't come to my brain the first thing, but in some ways it needs to, because these are the areas where the sustainability and the bioeconomy has to sort of force the issue. But we are very concerned about the rural economies, and so we're, a lot of putting out fires, as you know better than anyone. But just trying to make sure these economies work, and we don't necessarily leverage it on a daily basis with sustainability. We say the words bioeconomy and we're serious, but when we say sustainability, I think sometimes, I'm not sure the internalization of it is the same as certainly what you're doing over here.
I would just, I probably think about it more than a lot of people because it's a core part of my job. I do energy, climate, and a lot of the environmental issues, and I think the core of what a lot of the mission areas are focused on does revolve around sustainability. The Secretary just announced a new conservation program, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, which very much also revolves around sustainability. And many of these issues around the bioeconomy, which we talk about all the time, the Secretary talks about all the time, obviously relate directly back to sustainability, but maybe that direct linkage isn't made all the time. And I think that, frankly, depends on the audience we're talking to. Sustainability means something different to a farmer than it does if you're talking to business owners or you're talking to the DC crowd. So I think, that's a component of it, that there isn't really a defined definition for sustainability per se. I don't know, Tara, if you have anything else.
Sure. My grandma used to always say that ranchers were the first environmentalists, and I think, deep down that's kind of true for the Department of Agriculture. So much that we do helps farmers stay in farming, helps working forests stay as working forest land. And the carbon sequestration benefits of forest staying as forest land, or green space farmland staying as farmland, is so significant. And the ecosystem services of those lands remaining as working lands is really important. And I think whether we're supporting them from the conservation perspective or in terms of supporting the farmers and the folks that are on that land, there's rural America provides a lot to us all in terms of ecosystem services, and even the programs that are sort of indirect do quite a lot to support sustainability for the country as a whole.
Other questions? Yeah, Karen?
The Secretary has done a lot to put Biobased as a priority throughout USDA. And one of those is, I understand that each head of the state rural development program is to have a Biobased project of some sort. And I wondered if you could elaborate on what those look like and kind of the status of how that's going, and if anybody in the room might be a possible candidate to participate in that.
So we're using the word, I think, bioeconomy when we're saying that. So the Secretary, with all the state directives, we have a political director in every state that runs that state for the Rural Development Mission Area, and the directive was try to get at least one bioeconomy project in your state. And of course, where someone has a 9003 project, that's a big bio project in a state, and We're trying to get more of those out there. But for some of them, it can be a bioeconomy project might look like a value-added producer grant in that state, where it's growing a agricultural producer and turning, I'm going to use something very simple, like, salsa, tomatoes into salsa. Does that count as a bioeconomy? That's one small bioeconomy project. But we have some larger ones, like, and I have examples that I could go through, but I mean, they're manufacturing, like the one in Michigan that's we're announcing. I guess I'm supposed to not get out in front of it, so I better be quiet. But one that we're doing in Michigan, where we're doing something that USDA has invested in from the technology and is now also something that we've given a business and industry loan in. And those for sure, anyone can apply. Again, on the loan side, it's just a guarantee. So one goes to a lender, but for these rural areas, not a lot of capital, without the USDA guarantee, these banks aren't going to make these sort of loans, which in our loan space, it's like our average loan's about $2.3 million. These banks don't have the ability to make these kind of loans without our guarantee. And so one of the things that we are always trying to do is trying to find ways to invest, to make sure there's capital out there. One thing that we have, and I don't know if anyone's had a chance to talk about it, we have a Rural Opportunity Investment Conference coming up in July 23rd and 24th, where the Secretary and leadership has gone out there and said, there's so much going on in rural America. If what you're saying is there's not enough investment capital out there, let's see what we can do. There's a lot of folks with a lot of money that they're not investing in New York and other places. And let's see if we can make that rural space a part of the country where folks can invest. And so the Secretary has there's an advisor named Matt McKenna that's in our group, and they've been going around and finding folks that are interested in potential investing in rural America. And we have an investment conference where we've invited, I think 300 or 500 people are coming, and there's going to be panels where people are talking about, we know the U.S. government has a limited amount of money to invest in these areas. Here are some other folks that are interested in the kind of deals. So I encourage that some of the folks in this room that we reach out and make sure we get some invites to this group, because there's going to be people on these panels that have portfolios that they're very interested in exactly what you all are doing. I don't know if that was going to be announced somewhere, but we probably need to get
Yeah,
people ready.
absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Dr. Cassidy, where can you find out more information about the grants that are available?
www.nifa.usda.gov. It'll take you to the National Institute's homepage, and right there at the top, you see grants available.
And actually, this would be a good time for a follow-up. I was meeting with Daniel a week or so ago, and he ran through all of our programs in a really interesting way that I had actually not even thought about it. And I worked on all of these programs on the Farm Bill, of sort of how we take from the very earliest phases all the way up to commercialization with our various programs across the mission area. So maybe if you can run through those real quick.
What we were talking about was, one of the things that frustrates me as a researcher and as a research agency is we'll fund a grant and the work will get done, and then we don't see what happens afterwards. So what I laid out was a very simple path to commercialization, simple if you're successful at it. And we're talking, starting with our AFRI program, which is very fundamental science, looking at the genetics and the genomics of these feedstocks. And once you have that understood, moving into some of our more advanced, like the regional systems that I was talking about earlier, that we set up that look at the whole entire supply chain. And then when that reaches a certain point where it's right there at that commercialization level, you can either go through SBIR or you can go for a Birdie grant, because that's what we've been doing with Birdie over the past 6 years, is helping to bridge that economic valley of debt. And once you're right there and you've got this down, come over to RD. You take advantage of their loans and grants programs, and then you've got steel and concrete in the ground, you're actually making a product. You start working with the agricultural marketing system, or the agricultural marketing service, and you get it out there, you get it in the Bible program as well. And so what we're really looking at is making sure that our basic research investments are paying off to the point that at the end of the day, USDA is buying the stuff that we invested in. That would be sustainability.
Other questions? Yes.
I hear you talking about exports and the initiative to do so. We like to think that we're good at it. When 57% of the domestic soybean crop gets exported, we think we're doing something very good. What we think we would prefer to do is sell soybean meal, soybean oil, instead of whole beans. What we think we would like to do is sell bio-based products instead of oil and meal. The things we learned with doing things across the pond is that those in other countries want to know the producer that made the product. I go overseas, I don't sell them a thing, but I become the face of the soybeans they buy. As USDA, any programs that once someone in this room has equipped themselves to send their product to China, have you thought about how you could help them go there and be the face of their product to help them be successful?
Would you mind saying something about both the gold key missions that Commerce and Partners do as well as the USDA missions? Because Lily was a manufacturer and actually went on one of these trade missions when she had her company.
Many years ago. But again, when I speak, I'm not speaking for the Foreign Ag Service of the USDA because that's not who I work for. But I know they do a lot of things, so I can't speak to them. Somebody else, I probably should be able to, I just don't. So when we're talking about made in rural, we're not talking about those very sophisticated outfits that have attaché personnel and embassies and that kind of thing. The Gold Key Mission area for the Department of Commerce, it's another one of those hidden things that unless you knew about it, you wouldn't know the U.S. government offers it. But at that time, many years, the 90s, it was about $4,000, which is a lot of money when I was a small entrepreneur. But I got to go in a Gold Key Mission area where you go, you fly, you pay your own way. And then for, I think it was $4,000, and it hasn't gone up that much, they put you in front of whatever countries that your products are going into, put you in front of, you go to the embassy and they bring in the distributors for your product. And they were just amazing. I mean, they helped set up the distribution agreements, helped get the financing, brought in the XM people, and those are very good value. And a lot of small companies just don't think that, how do you, when you're a small company, some of you that are small companies know, you're doing the bookkeeping and the sales, and you're the chief financial officer and chief everything. How do you take time out of your schedule to go, 6,000 miles and to sell your product? But for my small company, which was in the medical device industry, I mean, it was the best value because we came back with big contracts that got us through those first years. And as a economy, when you're looking at potential recessions and this kind of thing, having that consistent cash flow from these foreign buyers was just, we wouldn't have made it. And the company still exists in rural Texas and has about 160 manufacturing jobs. So, I mean, it's good value. But the Department of Commerce, what our people now know that they didn't know is they are able to advise small companies in the rural space about these opportunities now.
It's an interesting point, though. There's a lot of opportunities that are run through the Foreign Agricultural Service, Department of Commerce, even regional partners like the Appalachian Regional Commission or the state of Pennsylvania that do opportunities to take companies over and learn and sort of matchmake with buyers. It's a different and interesting point that there's, even when you've got your buyer identified, we just heard from a business that said you had to have supper 7 times with this buyer before they were really comfortable with them. It just takes a little while for people to feel like they know you and trust you, and I think part of it is that there's the delay in payment, the shipping, for so far, and helping on that other side is an interesting point. But for the kind of trade mission opportunities before you've got your buyer identified, there's all sorts of partners that lead those missions, and our website, as it gets better and better, will have more of those features that people can put in their zip code and find opportunities, either, if I have a hardware manufacturer or fish feed manufacturer, I can learn sort of issue-specific ones or region-specific ones. But thank you very much.
But my takeaway from what I've heard is there are resources and there are websites that if I were that small manufacturer had a product I wanted to take overseas, there are ways. They just need to know what website to go to. There's help out there at USDA to get that done.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our Foreign Agricultural Service supports raw agricultural product exports or food product exports. So if you're making, if you're exporting raw soybeans or soy oil, they'd be the folks to go to. If it's anything else, once you get down to fish feed or something, something that's not food or egg, then we have to go with our partners. But Lillian's team can now, they're in a good spot to connect us with the right folks. So finding your local rural development business specialist any part of the country is a good first stop.